London, 1882. The letter arrived on blue stationery, the last gasp of luxury from a family drowning in debt. Amelia Zaveri's hands trembled as she read the missive from her father's solicitor. 3 weeks since his burial, and already the wolves circled their diminishing estate. £20,000, she whispered, the sum staggering. Her younger sisters looked up from their needlework, their faces pale in the fading afternoon light. "What is it, Amelia?" asked Clara, just 17 and already too acquainted with worry. "Father's debts." Amelia folded the letter carefully, shielding them from its full horror. "More substantial than we feared." Beatrice, barely 15, set down her embroidery. "Will we lose the house?" "Not if I can help it," Amelia promised, though she had no idea how to keep such a vow. Their modest townhouse in Belgravia was all that remained of their once comfortable existence. Their father, Colonel Richard Zaveri, had gambled away their security along with his military pension. That evening, after her sisters retired, Amelia inventoried their options in her journal. Marriage was the only escape for women of their station. Clara's beauty might attract a decent match in a year or two, but they hadn't the funds to launch her properly into society. Beatrice was too young. And Amelia herself, at 23, was already considered firmly on the shelf. She closed her journal with a sigh. Tomorrow she would visit her father's solicitor and face the truth of their circumstances. Morning brought no relief. Mr. Finch, with his perpetually ink-stained fingers, confirmed her worst fears. 6 weeks, Miss Zaveri. The creditors have agreed to that much grace, out of respect for your father's service to the Empire. And then? Seizure of assets. The house, furnishings. Everything. Amelia stared out the window at the busy London street. What of my sisters? They've done nothing to deserve this. The solicitor shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps relatives might, we have none willing to take us in. Their mother had been the daughter of an Indian Raja who married against her family's wishes. Their father's English relatives had never forgiven the match. As she departed, Mr. Finch called after her. There is one thing, Miss Zaveri. Lady Harrington's employment bureau sometimes places genteel women as companions or governesses. The pay is modest, but... Amelia clutched this thread of hope all the way home. Lady Harrington proved to be a stout woman with assessing eyes that took in Amelia's worn gloves and carefully mended dress. You speak French, I presume? German? Play the pianoforte? Yes, and Hindi as well. My mother ensured we were properly educated. Hindi? Lady Harrington's eyebrows rose. That might actually be useful. I've just received an inquiry from a rather unusual household. She rifled through her correspondence and produced a letter. The Duke of Hartwick seeks a governess for his ward. Knowledge of Indian languages specifically requested. A duke? Amelia's heart sank. Surely such a position would go to someone with extensive experience. Normally, yes. But this situation is delicate. The child is half Indian, the daughter of the Duke's late cousin who served in the Raj. The household is in something of a rush to find suitable care. Hope flickered anew. When might they need someone to begin? Immediately. The Duke's secretary will interview candidates tomorrow. Tomorrow. 6 weeks suddenly collapsed into 24 hours. I'll be there. The Duke of Hartwick's London residence loomed imposingly on Berkeley Square. Amelia smoothed her best dress, 3 years out of fashion but still dignified, and presented her letter of introduction to a footman who regarded her with thinly veiled skepticism. She was led not to a servant's entrance but through a marble foyer into a sunlit study where a man stood with his back to her, examining papers. Miss Zaveri, Your Grace, the footman announced. The man turned, and Amelia realized her mistake. This was no aging aristocrat but a man perhaps 30 years old, with striking features and penetrating grey eyes. Too young, surely, to be the Duke. I apologize, she stammered. I was expecting to meet with the Duke's secretary. I am the Duke, he replied, his voice carrying the crisp authority of one accustomed to command. Marcus Hartwick. Please, sit. Amelia sank into a chair, mortified. Of course this would be how her interview began, with a blunder. The Duke consulted a paper on his desk. Lady Harrington says you speak Hindi. Yes, Your Grace. My mother was from Rajasthan. Interest flickered in his eyes. Then perhaps you can help where others have failed. My ward barely speaks English. She arrived 3 months ago, and we've made little progress in communication. How old is she? 6. Orphaned when both parents died of fever in Delhi. What is her name? Amelia asked. Priya. Priya Hamilton. A beautiful name, Amelia said softly. It means beloved in Hindi. Something in the Duke's expression shifted. You would be responsible for her education, comportment, and general well-being. The position includes room and board, with every 4th Sunday free. The salary is £40 annually. £40. Not enough to support her sisters, but it might delay their creditors. May I ask about accommodations for my sisters? They are 15 and 17. Our father recently passed, and we have no other family. The Duke frowned. This is highly irregular. I require a governess, not a family. Of course. Amelia rose, hope crumbling. Forgive me for wasting your time. Wait. He studied her with those unnerving grey eyes. Your sisters, are they educated? Very well. Our mother insisted upon it. And do they also speak Hindi? Yes, though not as fluently as I. The Duke tapped his fingers against his desk. My household lacks female influence entirely. Perhaps a lady's companion for my grandmother might be arranged for one sister. The other could assist with correspondence. The previous Duke, my father, left his affairs in considerable disarray. Amelia could scarcely believe what she was hearing. You would employ all 3 of us. Conditionally. A 1-month trial. If satisfactory, we shall formalize the arrangement. When would you require us to begin? Today, if possible. Priya's needs are immediate. Today. Amelia's mind raced. We could arrive by evening, Your Grace. Very well. He rang a bell, and a secretary appeared. Draw up the necessary papers for Miss Zaveri and her sisters. And send the carriage to collect them at 4 o'clock. As Amelia departed, walking on air, the Duke called after her. Miss Zaveri? Bring whatever is precious to you. The rest can be replaced. The significance of his words only struck her as she reached home. He knew they were fleeing creditors. At precisely 4 o'clock, the Duke's carriage arrived at their modest townhouse. The driver loaded their trunks while curious neighbors watched from behind curtains. Amelia had spent the afternoon explaining the arrangement to her sisters, who vacillated between excitement and trepidation. A real Duke, Clara whispered as the carriage pulled away. Do you think he's handsome? He's our employer, Amelia replied firmly. Nothing more. Yet she could not forget those penetrating grey eyes, nor the unexpected compassion they had shown. The Duke was absent when they arrived at Berkeley Square, having been called to Parliament. A stern housekeeper named Mrs. Winters showed them to their quarters, adjoining rooms on the 3rd floor, simply but comfortably appointed. The Duke dines at 8, Mrs. Winters informed them. You'll take your meals in the small breakfast room, except when required for the child. She eats at 6 in the nursery. When might I meet Priya? Amelia asked. Now, if you wish. She's been inconsolable all day. The nursery occupied a sunny corner of the house. As they approached, Amelia heard soft sobbing from within. Mrs. Winters opened the door to reveal a small girl with copper-brown skin and black hair curled into herself on a window seat. This is Miss Zaveri, Mrs. Winters announced. Your new governess. The child glanced up, her face tear-stained, and said nothing. I'll leave you to become acquainted, the housekeeper said, withdrawing. Amelia approached slowly and sat on the floor near the window seat, making herself smaller than the child. Namaste, Priya, she said softly in Hindi. My name is Amelia. I've come to help you. The girl's eyes widened. You speak like Mama, she whispered in Hindi. Yes. My mother came from India too. Priya uncurled slightly. They don't understand me here. And I don't understand them. I will help you understand. And I will help them understand you. Do you promise? Amelia held out her pinky finger. I promise. Tentatively, Priya extended her own finger, completing the childhood pact. A tiny smile appeared on her face. When the Duke returned that evening, Amelia was summoned to his study. He had changed from his parliamentary attire into less formal evening wear, though he remained every inch the aristocrat. How is Priya? He asked without preamble. Homesick and frightened, Your Grace. But we've made progress. She's agreed to join us for breakfast tomorrow. That's more than anyone else has achieved. He gestured to a chair. Please sit. We have matters to discuss. Amelia sat nervously, hands folded in her lap. I've had inquiries made about your circumstances, he said. Your father's debts are substantial. Her cheeks burned with shame. We had planned to sell what we could to satisfy the creditors. That would hardly make a dent in £20,000. Amelia's head snapped up. How did he know the exact figure? I've instructed my solicitors to negotiate with your creditors, he continued. They'll accept £12,000 as settlement. Your Grace, we cannot possibly accept such generosity. It's not generosity, Miss Zaveri. It's an investment. His expression was unreadable. I require Priya to be raised properly, by someone who understands both her worlds. Your circumstances provide me leverage to secure your long-term commitment. Amelia felt as though the air had been knocked from her lungs. Of course. This wasn't kindness, it was calculation. I see, she said stiffly. Do you? £12,000 is no small sum. In exchange, I expect you to remain as Priya's governess until she comes of age at 18. That's 12 years. 12 years. Her youth signed away for her father's mistakes. And my sisters? May remain employed as we discussed, or pursue marriages if suitable offers arise. Their futures are not mortgaged as yours would be. Amelia swallowed hard. Freedom for her sisters at the cost of her own. I'll need time to consider. Of course. He rose, signaling the end of their conversation. You have until tomorrow evening. Amelia barely slept that night. 12 years in service, bound by debt and duty. Yet what was the alternative? Poverty for all of them, her sisters' futures blighted before they began. By morning, her decision was made. She found the Duke in his study after breakfast, poring over correspondence. I accept your terms, Your Grace, she said without preamble. He looked up, face impassive. Very well. The papers will be drawn up today. I have one condition. Amelia's heart hammered in her chest at her own audacity. His eyebrow arched. You're hardly in a position to make demands. Nevertheless, if I am to devote 12 years to Priya's upbringing, I must have authority to make decisions regarding her welfare. I cannot be countermanded by servants or tutors who know nothing of her culture or needs. The Duke studied her for a long moment. Granted. You'll report directly to me regarding her progress. Thank you, Your Grace. As she turned to leave, he spoke again. Miss Zaveri? My grandmother arrives from the country tomorrow. She can be challenging. I trust you've prepared your sister for her duties. Clara is eager to be useful. Good. Because my grandmother may be the most formidable woman in England. The Dowager Duchess of Hartwick arrived the next day with enough luggage for a royal progress. Lady Margaret Hartwick was 80 years old, ramrod straight, and possessed of a tongue that could flay skin from bone. So these are the Indian girls, she declared, inspecting Amelia and Clara through a lorgnette. "You're prettier than I expected." "Half Indian, Your Grace," Amelia corrected gently. "Our father was Colonel Richard Zaveri." "Zaveri?" "I knew a Major Zaveri in the Crimea. Brave man. Lost an arm at Sevastopol." "Our uncle," Amelia confirmed, surprised. "Well then. At least you come from fighting stock." The dowager turned to her grandson. "Marcus, help me to my rooms. These old bones aren't what they were." As the Duke offered his arm, the old woman gestured to Clara. "You, girl. Come along. If you're to be my companion, you might as well start now." Clara shot Amelia a panicked look before following. Later that evening, Amelia was reading to Priya when a knock came at the nursery door. The Duke entered, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Amelia replied. "We were just finishing with a Jungle Book." "A fitting choice." He approached the bed where Priya sat in her nightgown. "I wanted to say good night." "Good night, Uncle Duke," Priya said in Hindi. Amelia translated, and a faint smile touched the Duke's lips. "Uncle Duke." "She's trying to understand her relationship to you," Amelia explained. In Hindi, respected family friends are often called uncle or auntie. He nodded thoughtfully. "Please tell her I'm honored." Amelia translated, and Priya beamed. "Ask him if he will tell me a story sometime," the child requested. When Amelia relayed this, the Duke looked momentarily lost. "I don't know any children's stories." "You could tell her about her father," Amelia suggested. "She remembers very little of him." Pain flashed across the Duke's face. "Perhaps, another time." After Priya fell asleep, the Duke asked Amelia to join him in the study. He poured himself a brandy but offered her none. "My grandmother approves of your sister," he said. "Says she has spirit." Clara adapts quickly. "And your other sister? How is Beatrice settling in?" "Well enough. She has a gift for organization that your secretary seems to appreciate." The Duke nodded absently, staring into his brandy. "Miss Zaveri, there's something you should know about Priya's parentage." Amelia tensed. "Yes?" "My cousin James, her father, was more than a cousin. He was my closest friend. When he died, he trailed off, then gathered himself. I promised to care for his daughter as my own." "That's admirable, Your Grace." "Is it? I've made a poor job of it so far." He set down his glass. "The truth is, I have no idea how to raise a child, particularly one from two worlds." "Children need love and understanding more than anything," Amelia said softly. "The rest can be learned." "Love." He pronounced the word as if it were in a foreign language. "That was never abundant in this household, I'm afraid." Before Amelia could respond, he abruptly changed the subject. "The settlement with your creditors is complete. You're free of your father's debts." "Thank you, Your Grace." "Don't thank me, Miss Zaveri. Remember, you've traded one obligation for another." His words stung more than they should have. "I haven't forgotten." Weeks passed, and the household settled into routine. Priya blossomed under Amelia's care, learning English rapidly while maintaining her connection to her Indian heritage. Clara became the Dowager Duchess's favorite, reading to her for hours and listening to scandalous tales of Victorian high society. Beatrice thrived in the Duke's library, cataloguing his extensive collection while assisting with correspondence. Amelia rarely saw the Duke, who divided his time between Parliament, his club, and various social obligations. When they did meet, their interactions were cordial but brief, focused entirely on Priya's progress. Until the night she found him in the nursery. Amelia had awakened to check on Priya, who had been fighting a slight cold. Instead, she discovered the Duke of Hartwick sitting beside the child's bed, reading aloud from a worn copy of the Jungle Book. He looked up as she entered, a finger to his lips. Priya was fast asleep, one hand curled around the Duke's index finger. "I heard her coughing," he whispered. I was passing by. At 3 in the morning, Amelia thought, but said nothing. She asked for a story, he continued. I remembered you reading this to her. You're very kind, Your Grace. No. He gently disengaged his finger from Priya's grasp. I'm simply keeping a promise. As he stood to leave, Amelia noticed the shadows under his eyes. Are you unwell, Your Grace? Just parliamentary business. Nothing for you to concern yourself with. But the next morning, while helping Beatrice in the library, Amelia overheard the Duke's secretary discussing the succession crisis with another gentleman. His Grace must marry, the man insisted. The Hartwick title cannot pass to a distant cousin in the colonies. The family holdings would be dispersed. He's aware of his duty, the secretary replied. But after Lady Caroline's betrayal. They noticed Amelia then and fell silent. She busied herself with shelving books, but her mind raced. The Duke needed an heir, which meant he needed a wife. That evening, Clara burst into Amelia's room, eyes shining with excitement. The Dowager just told me the most incredible news. The Duke is hosting a ball next month, the first since his father died. Every eligible young lady in London will be there. Why would that concern us? Amelia asked, though she already knew the answer. Because the Dowager insists we attend. Well, you and I, Beatrice is too young. The Duchess says it's time the Duke found a wife, and she wants to parade every possibility before him. We're employees, Clara, not guests. The Dowager says nonsense to that. We're gentlewomen temporarily in reduced circumstances. Besides, it's not as though we'll be considered as potential duchesses. Clara laughed. Can you imagine? The half-Indian daughters of a disgraced colonel. No, Amelia said quietly. I can't imagine. Yet that night, she did imagine it, and the thought of the Duke with some society beauty left her strangely hollow. The preparations for the ball consumed the household. Amelia tried to focus on Priya, but even the child was caught up in the excitement. Will you wear a pretty dress? She asked in Hindi. I don't think I'll attend, Amelia replied. But Uncle Duke said you would come. Startled, Amelia asked, when did he say this? Yesterday, when he came to read to me. Priya's eyes widened. It's a secret. He comes when I can't sleep. So the late-night reading sessions had continued. Amelia felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the spring weather. That afternoon, packages arrived from London's finest modiste, addressed to Amelia and Clara. Inside were ball gowns of exquisite design, sapphire blue for Clara, emerald green for Amelia. The Dowager's doing, Mrs. Winters explained when Amelia protested. She says you'll not embarrass the family by appearing in outdated gowns. The night of the ball arrived with perfect early summer weather. The Hartwick mansion blazed with light, and carriages lined Berkeley Square. Amelia helped Priya watch from the nursery window until the child fell asleep, then reluctantly prepared herself. The gown fit perfectly, its rich emerald silk complementing her copper skin and dark eyes. Clara looked radiant in blue, her excitement palpable as they descended to the edge of the ballroom. The Dowager Duchess spotted them immediately and beckoned imperiously. Come, girls. There are people you must meet. To Amelia's astonishment, they were presented to Earl's daughters and Viscount sons as my grandson's wards, a fiction that elevated their status considerably. Clara was immediately swept onto the dance floor by a young baron, while Amelia stood awkwardly beside the Dowager. You dance, I presume? Lady Margaret demanded. Yes, Your Grace, though it's been some time. Nonsense. It's like riding a horse, one never forgets. Ah, Marcus! The Dowager waved to her grandson, resplendent in formal evening wear. Come escort Miss Zaveri onto the floor. She's wilting like an unwatered plant. The Duke approached, his expression unreadable. Grandmother, I'm sure Miss Zaveri would prefer a younger partner. I'd prefer she dance rather than become a permanent fixture beside my chair. Now do your duty as host. With a resigned bow, the Duke offered his arm. Miss Zaveri. Amelia had no choice but to accept. As they took their places for a waltz, whispers rippled through the ballroom. The Duke's choice of partner had not gone unnoticed. "Ignore them," he murmured as the music began. "They'll find new gossip before the night ends." "This is very kind of you, Your Grace, but unnecessary. I'm content to observe." "Are you?" "I've noticed you observe a great deal." His hand was warm at her waist as he guided her through the steps. "What have you observed about me, I wonder?" The question caught her off guard. "That you care more than you admit. For Priya. For your grandmother. Even for your household." Something flickered in his eyes. "Careful, Miss Zaveri. You're venturing beyond professional boundaries. As are you, when you read to Priya at night." His step faltered slightly. "She told you. Children keep few secrets. She loves your visits." The waltz ended, and he released her with proper formality. "Thank you for the dance, Miss Zaveri." Before she could respond, another gentleman requested her hand, and another after him. By the time she had a moment's respite, the Duke was dancing with Lady Elizabeth Morley, daughter of the Earl of Westmoreland. They made a striking couple, both tall, fair, and aristocratic to their fingertips. "A perfect match," said a voice beside her. The Dowager Duchess had appeared, watching her grandson with shrewd eyes. "At least on paper." "They look very well together," Amelia agreed politely. "Bah! They look like a matched pair of horses." The old woman fixed Amelia with a penetrating stare. "Tell me, what do you think of my grandson? He's a good employer. Don't play coy with me, girl. I've seen how you look at him when you think no one notices." Heat flooded Amelia's face. "Your Grace, I assure you, save your assurances. I'm 80 years old and have buried 2 husbands. I know attraction when I see it." The Dowager tapped her cane emphatically. "What interests me is that he looks at you the same way." "That's impossible. I'm merely Priya's governess. And I was merely a vicar's daughter before I caught the eye of the previous Duke. Rank isn't everything, child." Before Amelia could form a response, Clara appeared, breathless from dancing. "Amelia! Lord Rothwell has invited us to view his art collection tomorrow. May we accept?" The Dowager Duchess answered for her. "Of course you may. I shall accompany you." She fixed Amelia with a meaningful look. One never knows what valuable connections might be formed. Later that night, unable to sleep, Amelia wandered to the library. She was surprised to find the Duke there, his formal attire discarded for a smoking jacket, a glass of brandy in his hand. "Miss Zaveri." He rose when she entered. "Cannot sleep." "Too many thoughts," she admitted. "I apologize for disturbing you." "No apology needed. It's your home too, for the next 12 years at least." He gestured to a chair. "Please, join me." Amelia hesitated, then Saturday. They were silent for a moment, the ticking of the clock the only sound. "You danced well tonight," he finally said. Lord Rothwell was particularly attentive. He was kind. "As were you, to dance with the governess." "Is that how you see yourself?" "Just the governess." Something in his tone made her look up. "What else would I be?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "I visited your old neighborhood yesterday. Your house stands empty. The creditors will sell it, I suppose." "Actually, I bought it." Amelia stared at him. Why would you do that?" "I'm not entirely sure." He set down his glass. "Perhaps because you sacrificed your freedom for your sisters. Perhaps because I wanted to preserve something of your past." "My past holds little worth preserving, Your Grace." "Marcus," he said suddenly. "When we're alone, I wish you would call me Marcus." The intimacy of it startled her. "That wouldn't be proper." "Propriety." He almost smiled. "My grandmother says I hide behind it to avoid living." The dowager is very perceptive. And meddlesome. He leaned forward. She's convinced I should marry immediately to secure the succession. Lady Elizabeth seemed suitable, Amelia said carefully. On paper. But I've seen what a marriage of convenience looks like. My parents never exchanged a kind word in 30 years of marriage. He stared into the fire. I want more than that. What do you want? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Understanding. Companionship. Someone who sees me as more than a title. His gaze returned to her. Someone like you, Amelia. Her heart stuttered at the sound of her name on his lips. Your Grace, Marcus, he corrected gently. Marcus. You can't possibly be suggesting. And if I were? It would be madness. I'm half Indian, without fortune or connections. You speak 5 languages, run my household better than any housekeeper, and have given Priya back her joy. He moved to kneel beside her chair. You also possess a kindness I've rarely encountered in my world. Amelia struggled to breathe. The Tun would never accept me. Some wouldn't. Others would follow my grandmother's lead. She adores you, by the way. The rest would come around or be damned. You cannot be serious. I've never been more serious. He took her hand. I don't expect an answer tonight. Think about it. That's all I ask. For 3 days, Amelia avoided being alone with the Duke. She focused on Priya's lessons, helped Beatrice in the library, and accompanied Clara and the Dowager on social calls. But she couldn't escape her own thoughts. On the 4th day, a letter arrived from Lady Harrington. Lord Rothwell inquires if Miss Clara Zaveri might consider a position as companion to his sister, the employment agent wrote. The family travels to Italy next month and requires someone with artistic sensibilities who speaks the language. Clara was ecstatic. Italy, Amelia. Can you imagine? And Lady Rothwell is so kind. It would mean leaving London, Amelia said cautiously. Leaving us? Only for a season. Clara's eyes sparkled. Besides, Lord Rothwell mentioned his heir might join them in Florence. He's 26 and, according to the Dowager, in need of a wife. Amelia recognized her sister's romantic hopes. Clara, you mustn't set your sights too high. Why not? You have. Clara's expression turned serious. The Duke looks at you the way Papa used to look at Mama. Everyone sees it but you. That evening, Amelia found herself alone with the Dowager Duchess in the drawing room. Has my grandson spoken to you? The old woman demanded without preamble. About what, Your Grace? Don't play the innocent with me. About marriage, of course. Amelia's silence was answer enough. I thought so. And you've been avoiding him like he carries the plague. The Dowager set down her embroidery. Let me tell you something about the Hartwick men. They love rarely, but when they do, it consumes them. Your Grace, even if what you suggest were true, it's impossible. The difference in our stations was greater between myself and the 5th Duke. I had no dowry, no family connections. He married me anyway, against his parents' wishes. The old woman's eyes misted with memory. We had 42 happy years together. But I'm not only without fortune. I'm half Indian. And the mother of the next Duke of Hartwick would be the granddaughter of a Raja. Seems rather poetic to me. The Dowager picked up her embroidery again. Besides, the empire is changing. Mixed marriages are no longer unthinkable in certain circles. Before Amelia could respond, the Duke himself entered. He stopped short at the sight of them together. Grandmother! Miss Zaveri. Marcus, the Dowager said, rising with surprising agility. Perfect timing. I was just leaving. Miss Zaveri will keep you company. As the door closed behind her, the Duke approached Amelia cautiously, like one might a skittish animal. You've been avoiding me, he said. I needed time to think. And have you? Thought about what I said? Amelia gathered her courage. Yes. I think you're confusing gratitude with deeper feelings. I helped with Priya, brought some order to your household. That doesn't mean, stop. He sat beside her on the settee. Do you truly believe I'm so shallow? Not shallow. But perhaps lonely. Your position isolates you. It does. Which is why I recognize a kindred spirit when I find one. He took her hand. You're as isolated as I am, Amelia. Caught between worlds, belonging fully to neither. The truth of his words pierced her. Even so, you need an appropriate duchess. Someone who understands your world. I need someone who understands me. His grip tightened. When my father died, I inherited a title, vast estates, and responsibilities I never wanted. Everyone sees the Duke. No one sees Marcus. I see you, she whispered. I know. It terrifies me as much as it draws me to you. He released her hand and stood. I won't press you. But know this, my offer stands, whether you accept tomorrow or a year from now. After he left, Amelia remained motionless, her hand still warm from his touch. Summer bloomed into autumn. Clara departed for Italy with the Rothwells, writing enthusiastic letters about Florence and dropping frequent mentions of the heir's attentions. Beatrice continued her work in the library, developing a scholarly interest in medieval manuscripts that the Duke encouraged with rare books from his collection. Priya celebrated her 7th birthday with a small party where she proudly conversed in English with her uncle Duke and in Hindi with Amelia, bridging her two worlds with growing confidence. And Amelia found herself drawn inevitably into the Duke's orbit. They discussed Priya's education, then books, then politics. He sought her opinion on matters of the estate and introduced her to his colleagues from Parliament. The Dowager Duchess watched with undisguised satisfaction. One crisp October afternoon, the Duke invited Amelia to walk with him in the garden behind the London house. I've been thinking, he said as they strolled between late-blooming roses. About our arrangement. Our arrangement. The 12 years of service in exchange for settling your father's debts. Amelia's heart sank. Had he reconsidered his offer? I've honored our agreement. You have. But I want to release you from it. She stopped walking. You're dismissing me. No. He turned to face her. I'm freeing you. From obligation, from debt. Whatever you choose to do with that freedom is yours to decide. Why now? Because I want no shadow of coercion between us. If you stay, it must be by choice, not necessity. He took a small box from his pocket. And if you accept this, it must be for love alone. Inside the box lay a ring, not an ostentatious diamond, but a perfect emerald surrounded by tiny pearls. It was my grandmother's, he said softly. Given to her by a duke who married for love rather than advantage. Amelia stared at the ring, then at the man offering it. No longer just the Duke, but Marcus, the man who read stories to a lonely child, who brought her childhood home to preserve her past, who saw her completely. People will talk, she whispered. Let them. Your peers may shun you. Some will. Others will adapt. And Priya? His expression softened. Will finally have the mother she deserves. Amelia took the ring from the box with trembling fingers. You understand what you're doing? What you're risking? I understand that some risks are worth taking. He slipped the ring onto her finger. Some traditions worth breaking. Then yes, she said. Yes, I will marry you, Marcus. His kiss was gentle at first, then fierce with long-restrained passion. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. I should tell you, he murmured, my grandmother has already planned the wedding. For Christmas. Amelia laughed. Of course she has. And Clara writes that she and young Lord Rothwell will return from Italy in time to attend. You've been corresponding with my sister. Someone had to give the boy advice on proper courtship. Snowflakes drifted past the windows of St. George's Church in Hanover Square as Amelia walked down the aisle on the arm of the Dowager's brother, a retired admiral who had volunteered to give away the bride. Clara and Beatrice preceded her as bridesmaids, while Priya scattered rose petals with solemn concentration. At the altar waited Marcus, Duke of Hartwick, his face alight with a joy that silenced even the most disapproving whispers among the ton. "Are you certain?" he whispered as she reached his side. Amelia gazed up at the man who had freed her from one obligation only to offer another infinitely more precious. "More certain than I've ever been." The Archbishop of Canterbury began the service, his voice carrying through the packed church. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The Duke of Hartwick had found both an heir and a wife. And Amelia Zaveri had saved her sisters from ruin, only to discover that in doing so, she had saved herself as well.